any educational institution, like you have a lot of small eateries and maybe PG facilities and all that, which start mushrooming around the higher educational institution, especially because you have students coming from other locations, geographic locations, who come and study there. So they need accommodation. So you have a lot of PGs coming up, you have a lot of little eateries, variety of cuisine and all that stuff.
Yeah, the whole economy.
Yeah, the whole economy around the college that happens. Along with that, there is a below the surface thing as well, which happens. So you have a lot of these places starting from cigarettes. It goes up to the highest level of narcotics which you can think of. So only thing is, it's not open. It's not like going to the neighborhood shop and buying a plate of idli vada. But the ones who are into it know exactly how to get it.
In the middle of rapidly evolving landscape of technology and social media, Generation Z find themselves navigating a world filled with unique pressures and complexities. From increased academic stress to social media comparison, Gen Z faces a range of issues that takes a toll on their mental health and well-being. Can they seek professional help or even talk to someone at home? Bhama Suresh quit her corporate career to pursue masters in counselling, psychology and psychotherapy. She worked as a student therapist in one of the reputed colleges in Bangalore and has changed many students' lives for the better. What are the problems faced by Gen Z? How do they cope with it? How does family and different styles of parenting affect mental health of India's future generation? Let's find out from this eye-opening podcast brought to you exclusively by Prana Stories. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Bhama Suresh ma'am.
Hi Praveen.
Yeah, so I know you as a mental health professional.
Yeah.
If I could use that umbrella term.
Yes.
There are many details to it, but we'll get to that later. So mental health professional, and you were working in a college, in a reputed college, as a counselor for the students there. And right now you are into your own private practice, which is, again, we'll get to that into the details of it. Before we get into the basics of it, actually, let's get straight into the topic of mental health itself. We will get into your education, qualification, all that we'll get a little later into it. But I am more interested in your previous profession of being a counselor at a college, because I'm interested in what the young people are thinking today, right? What are the problems that youngsters are going through today?
Oh, they're called many things, not just millennials. I think they're called Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Gen X was over.
Yeah.
Now it's Gen Z, and I don't know what else is going to come up.
Okay, so basically youngsters from the age of 16, 17s to the 20s?
Yeah. Ideally between 16 to around 24.
Yeah, so it's like this is the ideal young generation of India. Yeah. This is where, these are the future generations of our country.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in what are these people going through, what are they studying, and they must be having a lot of problems. So maybe you can just highlight or go through what is your experience in dealing with these youngsters of today, and what kind of problems do they face, and what does their parenting look like? All these things, right? There must be a myriad of things that you have come across. So I'll leave it to you. The mic is open.
Okay. See, youngsters today have too many things to distract them. And it's not very ideal to compare, but the comparison happens all the time. And hence, it's a big elephant in the room, even for the youngster themselves. So they are always told that, in our days, it was nice. And, we also went through education, and we also went through all this Jawani ka Josh and all that. But we were not defocused from what we had to do and all this stuff. But sadly, today's youngsters have so many things to distract them. so many media, and so many, of course, interesting, good and bad things both. So there are lots of people who make very good use of that, and actually exhibit a lot of positive growth. But there is a sizable population of people also who get defocused from their main goal of what they have enrolled themselves into a college for. So that also happens, and they think a lot. Like, unlike, I think, the 90s or the previous generations who were born before that, I feel today's generation definitely has a mind of their own. And they think, they contemplate on many things, they have opinions about many things. And of course, they, being young people, they are also ill informed about many things. And so their opinions and their thought processes stems out of that ill informed kind of state. So because of that, yeah, they face a lot of issues. And some of the major problems that this age group that we were speaking about, some of the major problems that they face, a big thing is relationship issues and friendship issues, getting along with their classmates, making friends. And another thing is striking a balance between parental instruction and what they themselves want. So this always, there is they are at loggerheads with their parents because they want something else and the parents don't respect that or don't think that is necessary for them at that point of time. And so the argument continues. And another thing is it's very easy for them to zone out, not focus on what they should be actually doing. And they get carried away by many distractions. And things like substance abuse is again a very large thing. Many people are not talking about it. People are very much aware of it. So any educational institution, like you have a lot of small eateries and maybe PG facilities and all that, which start mushrooming around the higher educational institution, especially because you have students coming from other locations, geographic locations, who come and study there. So they need accommodation. So you have a lot of PGs coming up. You have a lot of little eateries, variety of cuisine and all that stuff.
Yeah, the whole economy.
Yeah, the whole economy around the college that happens. Yeah. Along with that, there is a below the surface thing as well, which happens. So you have a lot of these places starting from cigarettes. It goes up to the highest level of narcotics, which you can think of. So only thing is, it's not open. It's not like going to the neighborhood shop and buying a plate of idli vada. But the ones who are into it know exactly how to get it. So these are some of the challenges which the earlier generation might have faced, but not in this enormity. And also, I think genetically also the family structure has changed over the years. So earlier, like when you look at my generation or even one or two generations after me, the grandparents were a reality in the family. Today, there are very few families who have any other member other than the parents present. And most families have single children. So, and the single parent norm is becoming quite common these days. So, with the breakdown of the earlier family system, even the youngster does not have anybody within the family with whom he can even share 25% of his concerns and get a different perspective. So what happens is, when you're faced with any challenge, the first thing all of us do is think about it. Play it over and over again in our head. Play out the different options that we can take. Or, these are the things that we go on thinking.
Like self finding out solutions
by yourself.
yourself.
Yeah, kind of analyzing the thing and look at which way can I go now in this challenging situation. So this is what even everybody does, even today's youngsters do that. But the point is, in the background of so many distractions, in the absence of any kind of counsel in the family, the only people they can seek support is from their friends who are
Who are
almost
themselves
the
same.
almost the same age as them, with similar kind of information or misinformation, I would call it. So help is really not very present in the situation. So that is the reason why you see the presence. In fact, I think till about 5 to 8 years ago, counselors or full-time counselors or psychologists or therapists on a campus was unheard of.
Yeah.
The feeling of or the need to have these people on the campus is the result of all these multi-pronged changes in the social fabric of the place, of the society, basically.
Right.
Because youngsters, like you look at the time when I can say when I was growing up, there was definitely a grandmother. Maybe there were two also, because there could be even a grandfather. Maybe an uncle or something thrown in for good measure, a few cousins. So you had children of your own age, maybe 1 or 2 years older also, maybe a didi or a bhaiya used to be there. And then they would know, because they have just walked that path, so they know where you are getting to. So they are vigilant and they will warn you, like, hey, don't do this, or this is not how you should be doing. So you have somebody who is constantly there, or when you're faced with something, they'll say, okay, bring it here, let me help you with this. So, or let's discuss about this. What are you facing? Why are you, so grumpy about it, or what is bothering you? So these are things where, and people also had time. Most often, I don't want to sound very sexist over here, but most often the lady of the house was a full-time homemaker. Or mostly they used to be people who used to work a few hours a day and would be largely with their children in the evenings.
Yeah.
But now that scenario also has changed, and I have no complaints about the thing that it has changed. Obviously, women should get their presence and they should be allowed to, explore their potential to the fullest.
So what you're trying to say is mostly falls in the category of no availability of people.
Yes, and people not having time for each other.
Whether it is man or woman.
Yeah, whether it is man or woman.
Yeah.
See, earlier, let's keep mental health aside. Okay, let's keep mental health, the problems aside, or whatever challenges aside. The point is, how many families today sit down together and have dinner or lunch together?
Yeah.
See, most often we used to all, at least for the dinner, all of us used to sit together and have dinner. We used to have some conversations, and generally it would go around what happened in school today, what happened in college today, or why is dad so grumpy, or all these things.
Yeah.
So now the point is, each one eats in their room, or each one has different timings
and tastes also.
Yeah. So what happens is, even the normal communication in a house seems to have been broken down to the minimal. And youngsters by nature, when they start becoming, like when they cross 13, 14, they want to have their own space, they want their privacy. So this is a natural phenomena, a natural process of growing up. So coupled with this kind of a family setup, these youngsters are ending up in their rooms for hours together, maybe watching Netflix series or YouTube videos or what have you. And I don't know what else they're spending their time on.
Yeah.
With very minimal social contact.
Yeah. So let me come back. Now you just put on the table a lot of problems, right? Starting from, you started with relationship issues, and then there are making friendship is also an issue which youngsters are facing. That I believe that the college that you worked with had a lot of people coming in from other places to, it's like they shift cities and come to,
Yeah, I think this is the norm in most higher educational institution.
yeah,
Not just the place I worked in. I think in most higher education institutions you have this.
yeah, people come from different
From
cities,
different cities.
and
Yeah, and far-flung areas even. We
Yeah.
had even students coming from the northeast, from Kashmir, and Rajasthan, UP, Bihar, so we have many.
yeah, so that means like probably that's the first time that student or the kid is actually coming out of the home.
Yeah, many of them.
Many
At
of-
least 80-85% of them, it's their first experience
Yeah.
outside their home and completely independent on their own.
Completely. I mean, it's like suddenly that independence has struck them. It's like that. Maybe they were in a very strict family or a disciplined family or
Yeah.
wherever, and then suddenly they feel this burst of independence that has come to them. So that is one thing. The other thing what you said is, because of all of these, they also, because of the availability of resources around the college and other things, there is a big chance that they can get into substances
Yeah, they can.
because of the issues which they already have.
Yeah, it's basically, see, there is one in-between link that we haven't spoken about. That is peer pressure.
Peer pressure. Yeah.
Peer pressure and the need to belong.
That need to be accepted.
Yeah, need to be accepted and belong to a group is what most often leads people into trying out substances and then eventually becoming addicts.
That is again to make friendships.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
See, you strike a friendship with somebody, you think that person is good and you're getting along well with them. But then that person is part of another group, which maybe even, I'm not even getting to any substances. Maybe he's a smoker. He or she is a smoker. And then in order to spend time with them, when you're friendly with somebody and you like someone's company, you tend to spend a lot of time with those friends. So if most of them are smoking, it's before long they're going to tell you, why don't you try? Arey, ye to bachcha hai. Why is come on, yeah, and all, be a sport.
yeah.
So this is what happens, and then the person who doesn't want to try it can't resist for too long,
Yeah.
and doesn't have the wherewithal to even stand against that, I would say.
Yeah.
So gingerly they will try it once, and then they will say, okay, once I've done it, maybe I can do it again. So that's how they get. And again, see, not everybody gets addicted. Addiction is a disease. Not everybody has an addiction tendency. Now, this is again not a very commonly discussed thing. Just because someone has the habit of smoking, it doesn't mean that they are addicted to cigarette. Addiction is a different thing. Addiction is like when you're not engaging in that activity, your mind is all the time thinking of when can I get it. That is addiction.
Yeah.
So which means all the time you're focusing only on that and you're not thinking about the job on hand, whatever you're doing.
So, okay, these problems that we discussed could have been the same 25 to 50 years ago,
Yes.
right? But what has changed right now, I presume, is the advent of technology,
Yes.
which is the mobile phone. The mobile phone has changed and increased the problems exponentially. If is that right?
Yeah, but you can't even villainize mobile phones completely like that. But see, everything comes in as a facilitator to us.
Yeah.
See, all the development, all the technological developments that we have seen in our lifetimes have come with the good intention of making life a little easier for us.
Yeah.
So, likewise, the mobile phone. Now, how we as human beings choose to use it.
Yeah.
See, there's a use and misuse part in everything.
Right.
So, it is extremely easy to misuse a mobile phone and not be detected.
So, when we spoke about addiction, that is one thing which I also wanted to get, because there is a lot of misuse of phones, right? When I mean phones, it's basically content.
Yeah.
Content people are consuming.
Yes.
Right? What kind of content are they seeing? Is it conducive for their actual growth, or what? Or do they think they have their own growth in a different way? That is also that is one track which they go on. Now, one more thing that happens out of the content that comes in is what I feel. You can correct me if I'm wrong. because you also said that family setting is also lost,
Yeah.
right? So given all of this and the content that they are consuming, in the content itself there is a lot of promotion of individualism that is happening,
Yeah.
right? I am an individual, I want to live my life like this,
My life, my rules.
my life, my rules. This is what I see
Yeah.
many people, even on their bike, they write
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I understand where they are coming from, because their parents are so strict on them. They maybe there are so many narcissistic parents they have at home. They can't even say a word for anything. So they want to rebel against that. And then they go on to extreme
Yeah,
cases of
the
that.
other end.
Is that right?
That is also there. There is a section of youngsters who are like that.
Okay.
But even otherwise, see, I'd like to, in the middle ground itself, what happens is I'd like to talk about the comparison between the earlier days and now. Like, even the parents of today don't have it easy.
Don't have
it very easy.
Okay.
Parenting today is not an easy job. And there's a lot of pressure on the parents.
Is because of their work?
One is their work is an indirect thing, like finding an identity for themselves. They themselves being independent, including economically, personally, intellectually and all that stuff. And everybody wanting to use their abilities to the fullest. So obviously each one is working, and they have a youngster growing up in the house. And when you go outside and work, and when you have the home also to handle, you are handling 2 full-time jobs.
Yes.
So most often this responsibility falls on the woman. Today it is little heartening to see that a lot of young men are taking part and sharing the burden of homemaking, and that does help. But also what happens is it takes the focus away from psychologically relating to the youngster who's growing up. When I say psychologically relating, I'd like to explain this by an example. Now, there's this mother at home, and I'm not necessarily saying she's a homemaker. The child comes back home, and like every day, she notices that today the child does not seem to be the same chirpy person, like, okay, hi mom, what did you make? I'm very hungry. What's there to eat? This is the normal line any youngster walks into the house with. Now, this day, the child does not say this, and he or she just goes straight into the room, doesn't come out for about, say, 10-15 minutes. Now, the mother is already feeling edgy. She knows there is something amiss. So she gives some time, and then when either she goes into the room of the child, or the child comes out, and then she says, why, what happened today? You don't seem to be in a good mood. Now, this is enough. She's not even accusing anybody of anything. She's not being nosy. She's just curious to know, and giving you a platform, opening a door to share what might have gone wrong on that day. You might have had a bad day. Maybe the youngster would have got a mouthful from a teacher, maybe caught in the crossfires between 2 friends who were, warring or something. Anything could have happened. And he's upset. It's very clear. So this person at home is so vigilant that they know that it's not normal. So they start asking the right questions. That floodgates open and the youngster shares. At least they share 90% of what happened. They may not say the places where they did wrong, but still the main story comes out. So now the parent who is listening to this kind of smoothens the ruffled feathers, says, okay, don't worry. This is the place where you went wrong. You shouldn't have done this. It's okay. So what? Tomorrow go and apologize. And, by doing this, the person who has been feeling that, all hell is broken loose or the world is on his shoulder, suddenly feels very eased out.
Yeah.
The pressure is off. Now, this is a very simple thing. But today in families, this simple relationship is a little getting strained. So what happens is, this youngster, compare this to this thing, like he comes back home to an empty house, or to people where, the mother's sitting in some place working on her laptop or something, the father's not yet home, and things like that. And he just stays in his room for 1-2 hours and then maybe calls up a couple of friends or goes on to some OTT platform to watch some series, or goes into some, it could be even stuff which is not very healthy for him, that he sits and watches because he wants an outlet. Now, then the next day continues, the same mood continues. There is no let off.
Yeah.
And it's becoming worse because he's all the time thinking. And there's a very fine line between thinking, analyzing, and overthinking. So now it moves on into the overthinking stage. And then there'll be a lot of self-blame. And there'll be guilt. Now, all these things, the youngster has no place to air out, no place to discuss. Now, if he or she has some good friends with whom they relate, they will go and discuss about this to their friends. At least some kind of venting out happens. But many people, there are a lot of trust issues as well today.
Yeah.
Many people will not talk about their most intimate fears and apprehensions to others because they feel that will come back to them in a different form. Or it will be spoken in other circles and made fun of.
Yeah.
So which is obviously no one would like it. So this is another reason why they don't speak about it. So when you provide a safe space in a campus where they can come and talk, and when the right questions are asked, the whole thing comes out, tumbling out. And then when the whole thing comes out, of course, the first time they don't speak, it is also in the therapist's hands how we make them talk. But once the initial rapport is all built, you know that, okay, this place and to this person, I can be myself.
Yeah.
So when that assurance happens, most of them share even their deepest concerns and even the deepest traumas that they've gone through. Because in my therapy, I have seen people speaking about child sexual abuse and domestic violence, feelings of abandonment, and
Abandoned by their parents?
Like parents fighting and talking about separation. That's enough for a child to feel. The child can even be 25, but still they feel a sense of abandonment because for them, in their world, they want both people.
Yeah.
And they themselves are not psychologically equipped to be complete by themselves. Sometimes that is not reached even much later. Even older people sometimes don't accept it very openly if their parents want to separate. I'm not saying categorizing it as right or wrong, because according to me, right and wrong are very absolute terms, and they're very relative. So for the people who are not getting along well, they may have their reasons why they're not getting along well or why they want to call it quits or whatever it is. But for the offspring of that marriage, it is very unsettling, and it causes certain ripples in their world.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, mobile phones have actually, now when you were saying, describing that situation to me, when the child comes home and there is nobody to ask what went on today or how was it today, if that doesn't happen, and if the child has a concern or some issue or something, what happens today probably is they go online.
Yeah.
They go online, they check these kind of things online, and they get half the information, or probably not even half the information.
Yeah.
They get only 1% of that information, and they assume certain things.
Correct.
Based on that. And like you said, there is the self-doubt that happens. And I don't know, online there is n number of things that people say that if you are feeling this, you are
this.
You
Yeah.
are definitely this.
Yeah.
Or if you are feeling this, you are definitely depressed. Or if you are feeling this, you are definitely having social anxiety. Then this child starts painting a picture.
Oh, yeah.
That happens, right? So
it happens every day. I have students who just walk into my office and say, "Ma'am, I think I have this social anxiety, and so I cannot handle this. And I said, when I hear these words of, OCD, depression, social anxiety, panic attack, and when I hear all these words, I stop them there. I say, okay, you mentioned, now I have not moved beyond the social anxiety word. So she or he might have said many things after that, but I say, okay, you said social anxiety. So have you been diagnosed for this? Do you have a prescription, or have you been on medication for this? So when I start asking things like this, or even when they say OCD, ma'am, I have this OCD, and this is the reason why I feel very unsettled, and this and okay, then I immediately catch on that word OCD, because see, these are technical terms, and these are names of real mental health illnesses.
Yeah.
There is a difference between anxiety, a regular neurotic anxiety, and a psychotic illness. So when you use these terms very loosely, particularly in a group setting, when we talk about things like this, in the group there could be somebody who's really suffering from this from the psychotic point of view, and they could be on medication. And when these terms are loosely used, you're actually normalizing or you're trivializing that person's problem. And believe me, it is not a joke to be depressed or, anxious in the clinical term, or to undergo a panic attack. It is not a joke.
Yeah.
It is not a drawing room conversation.
Correct. Yeah.
So when students start using these terms very loosely, this directly reeks of, a few searches on Google.
Yeah.
Because when you put certain symptoms, now Google is Google. I mean, it has got collective information. It will throw up so many things. But it is up to our own analysis whether you identify yourself as that or not. But when you're directly going to apply it to you, then you will find that all of us might be having some very serious illness then.
Correct. So now coming back to the same point that I have, let's go a generation back. My generation of people have kids probably in this age that we are talking about, like
Yes.
10, 15, 16 years, that those kind of kids. But we as a generation, we didn't have this kind of facility at that point in time. Probably you also didn't definitely have. It's only during my working that I even bought a phone. It's like at the age of 27, 30 is what, and even smartphones came even later.
Much later
that. So what I'm trying to say is that our generation, our parents were not better off materially.
Yes.
Now, because the economy is opened up and there is a lot of disposable income that parents have, first thing that they are so busy in their work, they have a lot of disposable income, and because of that material abundance, they are giving phones to kids, and then sort of giving them their freedom to go check whatever they want to check and then leave them alone, kind of an attitude that comes. So with material abundance comes these kind of issues also. Why do they have a mobile phone in the first place is the question, right? That happens. Why do they have a mobile phone?
This I think, we can't wish it away. I'll tell you the reason why. Why should this child be given a mobile phone? Probably will work maximum till the age of say grade 10. Maximum, that too. Your 8th grader or 7th grader themselves start demanding a phone.
Yeah.
Maybe you can put it off for some time till the person comes to 10th grade. But beyond that, you cannot avoid it, because I'll tell you the reason why. Today, lots of notes, project details, lots of educational and academic stuff is shared through WhatsApp group and online.
And COVID exponentially increased.
Yes, COVID has actually shown us a different, a whole different picture of how the mobile phone and how your screens can be used.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely can say that you cannot avoid
So
that.
only thing is, some kind of checks and balances, parental controls on the devices could be the answer to some extent, and also talking about the ill effects of certain things. Like, I don't know about the Western world. I feel is a little more open to discussion, but in our scenario, we do not talk about many things.
Yeah.
Because see, like, for example, even periods, something like so normal as periods, is not spoken about to the girl child, before she gets her periods.
Right.
She doesn't know what she's getting into till even today. Many families do not talk about it.
Yeah.
And the boys in the family are oblivious to it,
Yeah.
which is also not correct.
Correct. Yeah.
So this is a very small thing I'm talking about. There are so many other things, like, you have to tell your youngster there are many things which are not for your age specific, which is available out there. So you should not expose yourself to these things because they have negative impact on you. Now, when you're open to discussion, you're not just conveying this matter to the child, you're also opening a communication channel with the child, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
And this communication channel, I'd like to talk a little bit more about it. It starts opening up when your child goes to school for the first time. So I'm not even talking about a 10th grader. I'm talking about a 4-year-old child. When you put him or her to a play school, and when the child comes back home, you ask the child, what happened in school today? What did you do? What did you play? And who are your friends? And all these things. So as a very small child, we all do it. But somewhere when the child goes into 3rd grade, 4th grade, this interaction starts dimming, starts going down. Now, this is what should be avoided. It should be kept up.
Yeah.
Whatever your age of your child. So what you're doing is, you are keeping that door of communication open, and you are being open to whatever the child is sharing. So and also you have to restrain yourself to stop retorting, like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
Because most often parents respond that way, and when they respond that way, the child shuts off.
Yes.
And this starts happening more often when the child is growing up.
Right.
Because when the child is growing up, there's a natural curiosity of many things. So you should be careful not to affect that natural curiosity, but also keep them equipped with information.
Yeah.
To the extent that that you think they need, because definitely you know better than them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that becomes very important. And when you do that, when your child is no longer a child, has now grown up to be 16, 18, the communication channel is still open, and you're the first go-to person for your young adult now.
Yeah.
So the chances of getting into wrong company, chances of making those costly mistakes is less. So that is how. So if a child has to be open and come and share things with you as a parent, the foundation of this you should have laid when the child was 4.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So that is something which I think all parents or new parents have to wake up to. And this thing like, oh, I'm busy with my work, I don't have time, how do I find time? This will not work, because if you're going to have a baby, you better have the commitment for this.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that opens up a lot of other questions.
Yes, it will open up a lot of arguments, I agree.
Yeah.
But a child is a minimum of 25-year commitment.
Yeah.
A minimum.
Yeah, it's a 25-year project.
It's a 25-year project. Minimum, I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. And you should be able to give
Yeah.
that
Yes,
kind of
that
commitment.
kind of, yes.
Commitment.
And this commitment again keeps changing. The demands of this commitment keeps changing as the child grows from one phase to another phase. It is going to keep changing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So now that since we have come to that kind of a topic, it's like a segue into that topic. I have seen many people without much thinking. I mean, many girls, if they have a problem physically, they go through that ridicule when women get married, girls get married, and they are already 3 years into the marriage, and then the pressure starts on them to
Yeah, to make babies.
to make babies, and they realize that this is my own friends. One of my friend who went through that. Not only one friend, actually, couple of friends. They already found that they are not fertile enough to conceive a baby, and they go through that what is that IVF injections and stuff like that, and they get that kind of a fire in them that I want to prove to the world that I can give birth to a baby, and then they just do that, and they give birth to a baby, and then after that their physical problems are separate, then the baby problems are another level, and the whole ecosystem of this
I was just coming to that.
family
This
goes.
making babies thing is, why just making babies? Even the previous step of getting married is such a social pressure.
Okay, then let's talk about marriage first.
It's because, see, any growing up youngster, and more so a girl, by the time the girl is 22, 23, you have a whole lot of pressure, first from your immediate family, your extended family, and then your friend circles. That is, when I say it is the parents, circles. They start saying, oh, your daughter's already 21, 22, you're not looking for rishtas for her. When are you getting her married? Padhai to hoti rahegi, you should get them married. These kind of things. So we treat marriage and subsequently making babies as a kind of achievement. And nobody, particularly for the woman, nobody looks at how she has excelled in her
Career.
undergrad courses, in her postgrad courses. Is she doing her PhD? Is she doing her postdoctoral? Where is she working at? Is she into academia? Is she into technology? Whatever it is, that doesn't, maybe she must have got the best employee award for the entire company or for the region or whatever it is, that is not appreciated. But what is spoken about is, oh yeah, this is all fine, but then when are you going to say yes to marriage? They all boil down to that. So I think this social mindset has to undergo a change, and this change has to come from people like you and me and our younger generation, because getting married and making babies is not the whole and sole purpose of life. There are many other things, and each one should be allowed decently to pursue whatever they want to do in life. And this happens along the way. It happens, getting married, seeking a partner, making your furthering your family. It happens as you go along. It should not be a chore or a task that you are supposed to tick off on your to-do list. When it becomes that, like you mentioned this case where, the female knew that she is not going to be successful on her own biologically to get to conceive a baby, and then they had to go through the IVF and all. And any kind of fertility treatment is not easy on the body of the woman. There are lots of effects, detrimental effects because of that. And by the time she succeeds and the baby is born, she's already tired. There's no enjoyment in it.
Correct.
And now she has to muster a whole lot of other strength to bring up the child. Now, whoever is socially pressuring you to either get married or further or start a family are not going to be with you and give you that 25-year commitment that you have to give the child you bring into the world. Or no one is going to be supporting you if you land up with the wrong partner. And even today, there are many families who tell that once married, it is best said in Hindi, शादी करने के बाद ससुराल से बाहर नहीं निकल सकती, तुम्हारी अर्थी ही निकलेगी. There's a saying to it. I don't get that. There's a proverb to it. Like once you get married and get into your married home, you cannot separate from there unless you're dead.
Right.
It's only your dead body that gets out of there. So this is what we teach our girls, and this is what is the conditioning that they grow in. So this is a pressure by itself on them.
Now, when it comes to this kind of a notion, I also see that it comes out of traditions,
Yes.
right? Traditional thinking that uh, it could be that in our family people have gotten married at this point in time. This is our uh, family's reputation, and it is a traditional thing, and it could be also tied to a religion or community or whatever, right? And this has to be done so that the society is better. Because I also see some practical issues there. For example, I'm just putting out a thought here, that if you are not married by a certain age, then you delay the process of uh, conceiving a child, and then everything gets delayed, right? So traditionally in India, at least, there has been some age that you conceive a baby, and then you take care of the baby for, let's say, 15 years. By the time you are 40, and then you can live your next part of your life. So this is done, and then you can focus on your spiritual aspect or whatever. That's how the age was sort of kind of divided. But right now, because of many other professional things that people get into and all that, things get delayed. And when somebody conceives at the age of 35, 40 and all that, the body takes its own toll. And then later on, you have a child and you are 50, and then
You don't have the
ba-
physical and mental
yeah, the
strength
balance is
to
not there. So
live
i
up to the
I
challenge.
see where they are coming from, that why that pressure is there is a very practical issue also, apart from the traditional issue, that you have to be like that, otherwise everything will go haywire. So how do you even balance this out?
No, see, for this we need to understand little bit, go back into uh, society or social science as such. When we originally started off, now I'm not going back to the caveman and hunter gatherer civilizations that we belong to. Let's come to the agrarian civilization, the agricultural civilization that we had maybe a few decades ago, maybe a couple of centuries ago. You needed hands.
Yeah.
See, it was all labor intensive. You needed hands. And if a family had, say, 3 or 4 acres of land, now the farmer, the matriarch, the patriarch, could have had 6 or 8 children. A sizable number of them males and some of them females. So they had a lot of work to do dividing among themselves. So it supported the family because everybody was within the family. They needed to go out for external support only, that is paid support, in very niche areas and to the minimal. So it worked for the economy of the family. Now, as the society moved from an agrarian to a more, to industrial and today technological and to today's society, we also have to take a step back and think whether the same rules or the same tradition or the same social rules apply to today. See, when we say traditions, in fact, it's very interesting. I'm digressing a little. The other day, I was just watching a small snippet that I saw on, I think it was YouTube or Facebook or one of them. There's a very famous upanyasakar. Okay?
Upanyasakar meaning?
Means, upanyasam means a person who speaks stories from our itihasas and Puranas.
The scriptures, basically.
The scriptures, basically. So he's a storyteller. He will say stories. In between, there will be shlokas and songs which he sings from that particular text that he's talking about. And he gives you the storyline of whatever he's speaking about. This is a upanyasakar. So he's a very famous person in those circles. And from the audience, there was a young girl who got up and asked him a question, saying that she must be around 18 or 20 maybe. And she said, no, I think she must be a little over that. She said she was married. And she said she got recently married and she moved, like the norm is in most households, she moved to her husband's house. And she had a very, very valid question. She said that, why is it, Swami, that the girls are the only people who get married and have to move to the boy's house? So the boy, it doesn't happen reverse way.
Hmm.
Once they get married, once the couple gets married, it's not the boy who shifts over to the girl's place. What changes? She also is the cherished child of a couple. He also is the cherished child of a couple. And why is this norm that only the girl moves from her parental home to everything new there and is expected to adjust to everything right from the doormat as she enters the house to so many other things? I'm not even describing it here. But the vice versa doesn't happen. Is it written in any of our Shastras? This was her question. Now, this person, he's a senior Upasakar, and he smiled and he said, I have to be very honest here. It is not written anywhere in our scriptures. This kind of a social norm is not prescribed anywhere. And at least in the Shastras, it is not there. It could be a social norm which came as a practice. But there is nowhere any reference that or any hard and fast rule that this has to be done this way. So in a marriage, this is what is supposed to be followed. So nothing like this has been described. It is not a must. Now, having said that, he also drew a comparison of how Lord Ranganathar, that is Lord Vishnu himself, who came in the form of Ranganathar to marry Andal. So Andal was born in Srivilliputur in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
And rather she was found by her father in Srivilliputur. And she prayed to Lord Ranganathar to marry him. And Ranganathar got married to Andal, and he says that even today, these are his very words, even today, Rangamanar is doing samsaram, that is family is leading his family life in Srivilliputur with Andal, his consort. But I guess that courage no other man after him had to do. So that is why maybe the norm is like this. So he made the question a little light, but this question was a real thing, because she said, in a few months, my younger sister is going to get married, and I know she also is going to move into another house. Why should this norm continue, was her question.
Yeah.
So like this, there are so many things like which under the veil of tradition, under the veil of Shastras is done, but is actually not prescribed there.
So what you're trying to say is, okay, there are many interpretations of Shastras that has come out.
Yes.
Right?
Huge, lot of them.
Yeah, many interpretations, not really the original ones.
Correct, yes.
So always refer to the OG.
Yeah, always refer to the OG, and also make your own conclusions based on your present situation. Yeah. That also is there.
Right.
See what applies to you. And personally, if you ask me, don't hurt anybody. Don't be cruel to anyone. Don't be rude to anybody.
Yeah.
Otherwise, do your own thing.
Yeah. Now, since we spoke about tradition, Shastras and all that, now I want to come to from where did you start? Like, how did you get into psychology? And
my
what is your
story,
education on that, so that I can come back and ask you the question of, because I am sure you must have done your MSc or BSc in psychology or something related to that in science. Now that with tradition is the question that I will ask.
Okay.
But I think you just go on, like, from where did you start and how did you reach here?
Okay, I got into psychology quite late in life.
Okay.
I originally did not study psychology or science for that matter. I was a commerce graduate.
Okay.
And I served in the corporate in various admin roles. And before I got interested in this, I picked up my books again and I studied psychology at the undergrad level and the postgrad level. And I did a second post-graduation in psychotherapy and counselling, because I am just simply intrigued about the mind and how it works.
So when you were working, you were intrigued?
Yes, I was. Yes, okay. I was doing both side by side.
Okay.
And I did spend a lot of it. Was a challenging period for me, but the passion kept me going.
Okay.
And After that, I decided to pursue it full time, and so I moved from a corporate career into mental health work.
Wow. Okay.
So,
So from BCom to a corporate career, and then from there, sudden shift to
yeah,
into psychology
and mental health,
mental.
and into adolescents and young adults counseling. Basically, that's my strong area.
Wow, that's
I do handle other things, but they are not my main area, I would say, like marital counseling or premarital counseling and geriatric counseling, midlife crisis. All of these I do handle, but my main focus till recently has been this, because I worked in a place like that full time.
right. So now let me come back to the question of traditions. You mentioned many. I mean, not many, but you mentioned shastras, traditions, and all that. Now, when it comes to things like this, people who tend to get or tend to take up science or anything that is related to medical sciences or psychology or psychotherapies and stuff like that, I have generally seen they sort of kind of avoid getting into the traditional aspect of it. Anything related to alternative medicine like Ayurveda or anything related to spiritual aspects of it. They think everything should be only about science. Because I have learned science, I should just stick to it. Anything that has evidence and proof, then only I will take up that kind of a thing.
Evidence and proof in whose life?
In whosoever life that is.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I just want to ask, how do you balance, or what is your, I mean, I can straight away ask, what is your spiritual practice, and how do you balance this with the science that you have learned?
Okay. I'd like to rephrase this question a little bit.
Sure.
Being in mental health and being everyone's shoulder to cry on day in and day out, at least about 4-5 episodes I get to hear every day. So I obviously need something to get my equilibrium back to its Zen state. Otherwise, very soon I may go down the same road as my own clients, or even worse. So for that, definitely, let's keep science aside. Science is something which is, I think, very, very young. If you compare it to Shastras and your Itihasas. Now, again, there is an element of belief. Each one of us has a different belief system. It need not be the same belief system for everybody. But definitely there is a belief system that exists in every family. Whether you want to respect it, and when I say belief system, I'm talking about religion and spirituality. So whether you want to respect it and toe the line, or whether you want to be a rebel, being a rebel is fine, but you got to replace it with something else.
Right. Yeah.
If you have something equally strong to replace it with, which can carry you through, then fine. But if it is not there, then it's better to walk on the beaten path. If you don't have the equipment and the wherewithal to blaze a trail. Because what happens is, when you have some kind of a spiritual practice that you personally start doing, it could be in line with your Shastras, or even if when you're talking about Shastras, it is we are talking about Sanatana Dharma. So let me not be so restrictive. When you include any kind of a religion into it, every religion prescribes their own methodology of praying to the divine. So, and they also prescribe certain stages or ways of doing it. So, which is taught mostly as children, we are taught these things. May not be carried through depending on the families and their practices. So, any kind of these practices, if you adopt and you carry through, it helps to make you a more centered and grounded human being.
So did you find, like, let me go back to your college experience. Did you find difference in kids who have a that kind of a backing from their
Yes.
family,
Yes.
and who don't have that kind
Yes,
of a backing.
definitely. Yes.
That cultural upbringing
Yes.
makes a lot of difference. Okay.
Yes.
Be it whichever culture.
One particular case I'd like to talk to you
Sure.
about.
Yeah.
This was a boy who followed Islam.
Okay.
He was going through a very difficult phase.
Okay.
And he didn't know what to do, and he could not discuss it with he lost his father soon after COVID. And it was not through COVID. He passed away because of other reasons. And it was very sudden, and he could not handle the shock. And plus, he had his own issues to deal with. And he underwent therapy and all that, but the effect was not very much to the expectation, or did not come up to the mark, was not completely satisfying. So I decided to step aside from the therapist's chair, and I asked him a question one day. Following the Islamic religion, being a follower of Islam, you're supposed to pray 5 times a day. Actually 6, but 5 times a day. How many times do you pray? He said, no, ma'am, I pray only twice a day or something, he said. I said, what stops you from doing it? Normally, people from your tradition are very strict about these things. So how come you don't do it? Basically, he doesn't have anybody at home to push him. So kind of a more liberal atmosphere, I guess. So I said, you just do this as an experiment. Start praying the number of prescribed times that you're supposed to pray, and the particular prayers that you're supposed to say. And learn to surrender to the divine will. Just make it a practice. Let's meet after 10 days. You won't believe there was such a difference in the person. And I'm not saying that science did not succeed or science was not as effective, but I would say the both buttressed together give a better result.
Right.
Makes a person more self-sufficient or Atmanirbhar.
So
And the self-doubt and the kind of unsettled feeling kind of takes a back seat, and you don't look back again.
Right. Yeah. So the message what you're conveying is for
They both go hand in
yeah,
hand.
the
Yes.
science enthusiasts don't cancel
No, they
spirituality
don't.
or
They don't.
religion. Should not cancel
Yes,
spirituality or
yes.
religion. And people who are heavily spiritual and religious should not
Cannot ignore science as well.
cannot be even
Yes.
superstitious as
Yes,
well,
yes,
right?
yes.
So both has to go
Yes,
hand
both
in
has to go hand in hand. And again, even if there is a person, basically you need to have an attitude that you know something. There's a world of knowledge out there which you don't know about.
yeah.
So if you're humble about that, then even if you're a science enthusiast and you believe only in proofs and, analytics,
Yeah.
even then you would be humble enough to understand that maybe I don't know about it.
Right.
You wouldn't say that the other side is a bullshit.
Correct. But that is what is also happening, because these days, like I said, a lot of cancelling is happening.
Yeah. So if you're more open to it and you understand that what you have learned is a little, you've scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There could be much more to it.
Correct.
If you're humble enough to understand that, then you cannot ignore. I mean, you can't badmouth the other side.
Yeah. You should be ready to
Accept it.
that
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not everybody knows everything. I mean, it's highly impossible.
Yeah. I would like to come back to the same problem that we have today in our current society, that people are living in nuclear families. They don't have the joint system, because I mean, I can talk for myself saying that our parents were disciplined and strict enough so that we sort of adjusted to it and somehow came through it. And their ideas are still could be in the older generations, because they have seen difficulties and they didn't have much disposable income. So we understand that. And that is my generation. We understand it and we kind of support it. But the current generation don't want to understand it, is what I feel.
They have not felt it at all.
They have not felt it, right? So they don't want to understand, they don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
They said, you have gone through it, you face it. I don't give me that. That is the kind of, attitude that.
And somewhere I feel they are right also, because being strict as a parent, is required to a certain extent. But expecting your today's youngster to follow the rules that prevailed when you were a youngster
Correct.
is not relevant.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I was coming to, that parents of today have to understand that.
Yes.
And also, again, the point comes to a fact that we managed it without a therapist or without a counselor or without any help. We managed it, ऐसे ही वो सब अपने आप हो गया. Or in Tamil what they say, adu poga poga sariyayidum. Right? So that is what the attitude was. It'll get resolved on its own. That kind of attitude doesn't work anymore.
No, it doesn't work anymore. And if the parents could a little step back and think, the number of suicides that happened when they were youngsters is not the same as it is happening today.
Yeah.
Why the difference?
Yeah. I was also.
Where is the lack?
Correct.
See, this one point itself is more than enough. If we come down another level, there are so many youngsters, when I say youngsters, between the age of 15 to 30, who are taking medication for mental health issues with real mental illnesses. Without those medications, they cannot function as normal human beings, normal people in society. So this was not the fact when they were young, when they were in that age group. So why? So if they think about it a little bit, then they would know that things have changed. The challenges of today are very different from the challenges then.
Right.
So, it is, and there is this element of sensitivity. Like when we were young, even if somebody scolded us or somebody gave us a whack on our back or, gave you a slap, we didn't bother much about it.
Correct.
In the next 10 minutes, we were okay. We were back to our hoo-hoo-ha-ha self.
Yeah.
But today, youngsters think about it a lot.
Yeah.
They contemplate and they go into the overthinking realm. They are super sensitive.
Correct.
Now, the mental makeup itself has changed.
Yeah.
So it was not the, like I remember so many times my teachers used to call us shameless. This was a very common gali that we got.
Yeah.
Shameless people. Just 1 hour ago, I shouted at you and you're back to the same thing.
Yeah.
This is how we were.
Yeah. And they used to call us fish market.
Yeah, we never. And every time we used to be told by the particular teacher, that you're the worst batch.
Yeah.
This was the standard dialogues all teachers had. You're the worst batch I've seen.
Correct.
I've been working in this school or college for so many years and you're the worst batch.
Worst batch. Yeah.
So we never bothered about anything.
Today the kids take it offensive.
Yeah.
And they can go and, there are laws that have also come in. Extreme
No,
cases
it is an entire change of social and mental makeup that has happened.
in this, because of those things, do you think the kids feel more entitled today?
They do feel entitled. Yeah, see, every change has a 0 and a 10 on the scale. So if some people are like lost in this change, they get completely lost, because there are some people who need some order, who need some discipline, some instruction. They cannot work without instructions. Whereas there's the other end where you should not even tell them anything. So these are the extremes. So while you have people who feel very entitled and think that it is their birthright to, be allowed to do a certain thing, and even no one has any right to ask them questions, there are others who are like completely lost and think that no one cares for them because they're not asking.
Right. All kinds of things are there.
Yeah. So there is a middle ground that we need to strike. And it's what the parents also have to understand and go according to the changes that are happening in society, and not live in their own younger days and say that it applied then, it should apply now, that argument actually switches off or shuts off the young person in their house.
Right. And also they try to push their aspirations onto
Yes,
their kids.
yeah, that
Because
again.
I couldn't do it.
Yes.
And
You have to respect your child as an individual, independent thinking adult or a different person, different from you.
yeah.
So they have their own passions, they have their own ambitions and their own interests which they want to follow, and they should be provided an opportunity to follow that. And today, see, when we were, at least when I was going to school and college, we had only 3 options. You had arts, commerce and science. Today, once you finish your 10th grade, the grind starts, like which one should I take?
Yeah.
And by the time you finish analyzing and deciding on something, the admissions are closed.
Yeah.
It is that much of choice available.
Correct. Problem of plenty.
Yes, problem of plenty. So from there starts your youngsters' challenges. So for people who say that I want my son or daughter to be an engineer or a doctor or this or that, it's just take a few minutes to ask the child what they want to do. Or if you say that your child should become an engineer, and when all along in school he used to scrape through maths or just barely used to pass or all the time used to fail and hated the maths teacher, do you really think he can go through the grind of becoming an engineer? You see, if you are just a mediocre engineer and just pass out, that doesn't give you much in life.
Yeah.
That will be a very unhappy engineer who passes out. If he really sustains those many years of studies and comes out, many of them drop out halfway through.
Right. So I think for a generation to change, the power resides in the parents and the teachers who impart that kind of education or training to the kids that are coming up. If that generation can be changed, then can be changed, when I mean changed as in can be made healthier.
Yeah.
If at least out of 100 students, if 80% of the students can be healthier, I mean, there are exceptional cases where there are issues that are there. At least if 80% are encouraged in a healthier way.
No, when you talk about this, not just the 80%, even the 20% which are having above normal challenges would see better days.
Correct. Yeah, that's what. At least looking at the 80%, right? So I think the challenge lies in parenting and also teaching.
Basically the adult population.
Adult population, right? In the age group of, let's say, 30 to 45?
30 to even 60. Even the grandparents.
Even the grandparents, right? So these guys have to take care that at least the next generation that comes in can
and they have to start young.
Right.
Starting young is very important. See, when you're not available for your child till the child is 12, 13, and then suddenly you become available and you start becoming nosy in his or her affairs, they're not going to open up to you. So the bond has to be built right from the beginning.
Yeah, right from the child when
when the child starts going to school, when the child starts having his own thing to do.
Yeah.
So then, it should be kind of a sharing and caring kind of an atmosphere at home and an openness to speak whatever you have been going through. That openness, when it is there, definitely the older population has a better guidance power.
Correct.
For the youngster.
Yeah.
Because they are that many summers older, they have that much more experience in life. So they can give a better guidance to the child. But it has to come from a neutral zone.
Yes, because right now what I say, again go back to the same issue, that today even if grandparents are there with the kids, the grandparents think in a very different way.
Yes.
And the parents of today think in a very different way.
Correct.
The parents of today saying, I need more freedom to my kid. The grandparents saying, no, this was not how it was.
Yeah.
I taught you in a different way. There are 3 different generations.
It's like the story continues.
Yeah, the story continues. And the child is going through so many, various emotions there.
Yeah.
My granny is saying something, my amma is saying something. It's like total confusion for the kid. So I don't know where to find the balance, but it's really a
The
challenge.
kid will say, no, I don't want to stay here. I'm just going out of here.
Exactly. So that is where that individualism is coming.
Yes.
That I don't want anything of this. I will do my own thing.
And also there is a small population, a small percentage of parents who are extremely strict.
Yeah.
Like they're extremely strict.
Yeah.
And the child has very minimal autonomy,
Yeah.
even in areas where they should be given autonomy.
Yeah.
And that provides a very unhealthy atmosphere and a very scared child, and who is very low on self-esteem and self-confidence, which is what we deal with when they come to college.
Right. Yeah, that's because some parents feel that respect is earned through fear.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a very unhealthy approach.
I have heard many of my own friends say that if you want respect, give the fear. They have to fear you, then they will respect.
No.
I mean,
that to a certain large extent, it is there even in the spirituality that we impart to our younger generation.
Right. I mean, because of the gurus,
Yeah.
you have to fear the guru. And
No, forget the guru. Sami kanna kuttidum. In Tamil, I mean, there's a comedy thing also.
Yeah. The God. God will punish you. Right.
I mean, till today, I don't see any God who would have come and... When you're talking about God as a heavenly father or a mother goddess, would your father or mother do something that is so detrimental to you? But the basic concept itself, I can't wrap my head around it.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like there is so much of techniques of diet that is there out in the market.
Yeah.
There are also parenting advices that are there out in the market, right? Like, okay, you need to parent like this.
It basically boils down to information that's available out there, how much you apply to your own situation, and which is applicable to you,
right?
Which will be a win-win situation for you. There is the personal choice.
So what would be your advice? Is that based on what you have, apply that? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, because see, when you suppose you have a youngster at home and you have been brought up in very strict atmosphere when you were a youngster. First thing you need to understand is the same strictness will not work with your today's youngster. Okay, then what will work? Then you have to analyze yourself and see what needs to be given, also keeping in mind the nature of your younger person. See, today's youngsters are very smart.
Yeah.
We can learn a thing or two from them. Let's be very frank about it. There's nothing wrong in learning from the younger generation.
Correct.
They can teach you some really good things.
Yeah.
Now, if you can respect that, they will feel it. Then the gamut changes. The game changes.
Yeah.
Then the way they look at you will also be different. Then whatever you say will carry value in that youngster's mind. So it's a give and take thing. So you have to also understand and apply it according to the age of your youngster. If the child is very young, then you don't do this, obviously.
Right.
When the child is very young, it's more directive. It's more instructive.
Yeah.
Don't do this, do this types.
Yeah.
But as the child is growing, a little bit more autonomy is to be given, so that autonomy is not just freedom given. It is also building self-esteem. It's also building confidence. It's also building a very strong personality for the person who's growing up.
Right.
And it gives them the freedom to go out there and experiment, to go out there and try out things. And you follow through with feedback. Ask them, how did you try what I told you?
Correct.
What do you feel about it?
So I've heard someone say this, that till the age of 5, you can be a monkey with your kid. Because you
Anything goes.
Play around and you do whatever. After the age of 5, you become a guide. In terms of what you said, like instruct and guide them.
Yeah, they need to be given clear. They want a direction.
And after the age of, when they reach the age of 15, be a friend.
I won't say exactly a friend, but it would be like, give them a longer rope. You should still be the person who is in control, but control is a little harsher word, I would say, but you should be the one who's in the driver's seat, but still, the youngster should be allowed to try out more things, to do things on their own and come back with feedback on what they feel and what went right and what did not go right for them. Because that builds the character of the person.
Right. Yeah.
Because another 5 years down the line, he's going to look for personal independent identity.
Hmm.
And that is based on self-esteem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And all through, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, encouragement and appreciation is something which we are very miserly with.
Hmm.
Criticism and, to scold somebody, we take it as an entitlement. When I say we, it's the older generation. Whether it's a parent, grandparent, or any uncle, aunt, whoever. So, but appreciation and encouragement is something we are very miserly with. It should be the other way around.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is also, the criticism part is also romanticized a lot.
Yeah.
That if you criticize, then
Then they do better.
Then they do better.
No, it's not necessarily that way.
Again, there also you need to find a balance.
Yeah, you need to find a balance.
I think the whole...
You can't be a yes master to everything your youngster does by saying, yeah, okay, what you did is very nice and all that.
Correct, yeah.
But you also have to, you need not find fault with everything that they do just to keep them in control. That is also a wrong approach.
Correct. Yeah. Wow. I think we spoke a lot about many things. And I think the change really is in the generation that is coming up. And it is in the hands of the parents and the teachers.
And also building a safe space for your own. See, I'll tell you what, grit and determination is not something which is taught in universities.
Right.
These are not academic subjects.
Yeah.
See, resilience, grit, determination, these are things which have the seeds in the upbringing.
Correct.
At home.
Yeah.
So when this is built in, the person becomes strong from within.
Correct. There is no course available for this.
Yes, there's no course available for this. This is a virtue that you develop.
Correct. I mean, there is a clear path for your career that if I want to do aeronautical engineering, I do this, I do 10+2, I go to this, do this entrance, and then I get there. But for your own emotional quotient, there is no course available.
There's no course available. And it happens, it is because of the environment that you grow up in. It is like they say nature and nurture. In psychology, we say a person is part nature, part nurture. Nature is the genetics and what you're born with. And nurture basically is the environment in which you're nurtured.
Correct.
And that includes everything, not just your parents. It includes everything.
Right. And that nurture also includes mental health, and people shouldn't refrain from seeking help.
Yeah, absolutely. And today it is slightly kind of the ice is breaking, but still enough is not, it's not in the pace that is required.
Right.
But the head is part of the body. I wish people would recognize it.
Right.
And one of the most important parts of the body. The rest of the body functions because the head is functioning well.
Yeah, and the people shouldn't think that, I've even seen some people saying, it is in my own family, people who are ignorant saying yoga and meditation are for people who have problems. Right? Yoga and meditation are, he has that problem. That is why
meditation and mindfulness is something which will keep you so grounded, and it will take a big thing to really shake you up if you are into constant regular practices of mindfulness and meditation. And meditation, when I say meditation, most people also think that meditation is something to do with a religious thing. Meditation has nothing to do with religion.
Meditation is about yourself.
Yeah, it's about yourself. And meditation, there are so many different types of meditations, and that is also something which you need to Google.
Correct. Yeah.
And learn from what you see out there, which works for you best.
Correct. And one more thing could be that parents of today need not apply the same techniques which they grew up with.
Yes.
And if at all they think the child needs help, they should seek help.
They should seek help, yes.
Yeah, because if they don't have the capacity to guide them, it's better that they get a professional.
No, and it is always, see, sometimes we are not equipped to handle everything.
Yeah.
So there is help out there. And it's not that this is the end of the world. There is a lot of help out there. It's just for you to seek where you get it.
Correct.
And what works for you.
Right.
And seeking out support for mental health issues is, I think, a very courageous thing to be doing.
Right. Yeah.
It's the right thing to be doing because no one should suffer in silence.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure people who come to you in the college are only a few percentage that
Yes,
actually
yes.
get up and come
Correct.
to you. There may
And
be
even they are sometimes discouraged. There are some students who have told me that they hide and come, they slink in slowly into my therapy room because they don't want to be seen by other friends.
Correct.
And they say that sometimes the friends say that, you can't handle your problem, so you go to her.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is like, they kind of bully them, they kind of tease
that
them
again
on
is
that.
coming from the parent.
Yes, that again is coming from what they understand
Yes.
of the thing which is handed down.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And there are,
That you don't need somebody else to support or to handle, for you to handle your issues.
correct. And because of that, people who are actually going through some serious issues won't even come
Won't even come out, yes.
out. Right. And I don't know how many are there like that.
Yes.
Wow. So, what do you have to say as a parting shot to this podcast?
No, I think that mental health awareness is very, very important. If you know little, delve into it more, understand more, and understand that there are so many different angles to it. And also, if somebody seems to be having an issue, is fighting or grappling with something, encourage them to go out and seek help. Do not discourage anybody, whether within the same family, whether it is your own sibling or your child or whoever it is. There is help available. Please seek help. And no one should suffer. Everybody deserves to be happy.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves to be happy.
Yeah. And also, I would like to add to that. You can validate that if people regularly do some practice of their own.
Yes. Something connected to your own belief system, something which resonates with you.
Yeah.
There are so many different methodologies out there. Choose something which is resonating with you, which is workable in your own lifestyle, and but practice something, some kind of mindfulness practice, some kind of me time that you would have.
Yeah.
Connecting to the cosmos, connecting to the divine.
Yeah.
It is needed.
Yeah.
To help you sail through this tornado of life.
Right. I mean, it need not be. I have seen when you talk about this that people do say that, oh, okay, my son goes into music, my son goes into dance, my son goes into yoga, multiple things, extracurricular.
No, again, it's like master of, jack of all and master of none type of thing.
So,
because
what I was trying to say is that even that is also done in view of competition.
Yes, it's like, my friend's son or daughter is doing so many things. Why are you not doing? You should also go.
Yeah.
So it's like that child may not even be interested in music. So he's put into a music class.
Correct.
Maybe cricket coaching or whatever it is.
Yeah. That also is looked upon like a career future, something like that the person can do. But probably that should be approached in a different way.
I talk to so many of my students, you have to pursue some kind of hobby.
Yeah.
And when you say hobby, it's chosen completely by the younger person, practiced without any kind of pressure by anybody else outside. And it is something where you lose yourself so much that you don't bother to look at your phone for the next 2 hours.
Correct.
That's the standard.
And do it because it gives you joy.
It gives you joy. And complete, pure, unadulterated joy.
Not because that I want to go, you
and
can have goals.
Yeah. No, ideally hobbies should not have goals.
Right.
It should be self-paced.
No,
they should be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
As youngsters, why I'm using the word allow is because parents always seem to say that you're wasting your time on this. It's not a waste of time.
Right.
That is also an activity which, when you're so full of joy, you're ready to take on challenges.
Right. Yeah.
And your mind, it's like pressing the reset button in your mind. Your mind becomes capable enough, becomes recharged to handle even the challenge before you got into that activity, that hobby activity that you did for the last 2 hours. Your mind must have been so confused or so much in a turmoil that you just put everything apart and you picked up that canvas and started painting or created something so beautiful in the next 2 hours that you engaged with it. After that, you feel so fresh that you're ready to go back to that challenge which you thought had no end.
Yeah.
And you'll find such a simple solution to it.
Correct. Yeah.
This is possible.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of engaging in any kind of activity that brings you just pure joy.
Yes. Yeah.
And most often, especially for students who are doing 10th grade and 12th grade, where the board exam is there, they are told that they have to keep aside everything and focus only on studies.
Correct. Yeah.
So if your youngster is into sports, active sports, and you're going to stop them from doing that swimming or tennis or cricket or whatever it is, and make them focus only on studies, that is a disastrous thing. Because the normal physical activity that they had till that time is suddenly curtailed.
Yeah.
And that becomes a very detrimental thing on their mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I think this podcast will really help some parents who are there. My own friends who are parents to many kids, and there are so many people out there. Will certainly help.
I mean, it is important that all of us make the world a better place to live in for ourselves and for the ones who are in our lives.
Yes. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Praveen, for giving me this opportunity.
And I'm sure that there will be so many questions that will come up after this podcast. I think we can talk more in detail about a specific thing also.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I'm open to that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Oh, we didn't speak about why we say Radhe Radhe. We'll say that also.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah. So I started speaking to Bhama ma'am, and then I learned that she visited Vrindavan, and people address people there as Radhe Radhe.
Not just addressing people. Their cycle rickshaws don't have bells.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have told me that.
Yeah, and in Vrindavan, especially the old Gokul area and all that, the roads are very narrow. So when there is one cycle rickshaw or an auto rickshaw coming, there's hardly any space for people to walk. So they want people to clear out, and this is their horn. So they just put their head out and say Radhe Radhe.
Yeah.
So Radha's presence in Vrindavan is like so alive.
Yeah.
And it is so, I don't know, it's very close to my heart.
Right.
And it's like she's the living presence over there.
Correct.
And every person, there's no good morning, there's no good evening, there's no good night.
Everybody says
there's
that.
no hi.
Yeah.
It's all Radhe Radhe.
Right. Yeah. And people who say Indian society is patriarchal, this is the...
I think this is, yeah.
This is
and Vrindavan and Gokul is ruled by Radha.
Radha, yeah.
It's only after Radha comes Krishna.
Correct. I mean, she is the embodiment of Shakti,
embodiment
of Devi, Parvati, everything. So that's
she's the goddess.
Yeah. So that's the small nugget for the audience also, that if you want to start addressing people
the divine feminine power.
The divine feminine power, say Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.